Very good morning, dignitaries, all the participants from all over India, and organizers of this meaningful webinar. On this occasion of a national webinar on modern aspects of complex analysis and its applications, organized by the Department of Mathematics in association with the Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Rayat Shikshan Sanstha's Sadhguru Gadge Maharaj College, Karad, an autonomous college. I heartily welcome the dignitaries, honorable resource persons, and all the participants joined online this national webinar. The guests of honor and resource persons of this webinar are Honorable Dr. K.D. Kuche, Assistant Professor in Mathematics, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, and Honorable Dr. S.B. Ballal, Assistant Professor in Mathematics, Savitribai Phule, Pune University, Pune. Honorable Principal Dr. Mohan Rajmane Sahib is in the chair presiding over this webinar. Dr. Girish Kalyan Shetty, Coordinator of the Internal Quality Assurance Cell, is present on this occasion. Vice Principal Professor S.A. Patil, who is the head of the Mathematics Department, is also present with his team Mathematics. So once again, I welcome all, and at the outset, I would like to invite Professor S.A. Patil sir for delivering welcome and introduction speech. Professor S.A. Patil sir.
Mohan Rajmane Sahib, Dr. S. from Kolhapur, ITSC Coordinator Dr. J.B. Kalyan Shetty sir, Coordinator of this webinar Mr. S.D. Agrawal, all my colleagues and participants. It is my great pleasure to invite you to participate in National Webinar on Modern Aspects of Complex Analysis and its Application, organized by the Department of Mathematics, Sadhguru Gadge Maharaj College, Karad. Through this complex analysis was created when complex number was invented by Gauss in 1831, but it is open entirely new doors in the 20th century, when complex analysis was found essential in the formulation of quantum mechanics. Within last few decades, the situation changed dramatically. Nowadays, we observe an exponential growth of the high-quality research paper in analytic and harmonic univalent functions, meromorphic univalent functions, bioanalytic and harmonic univalent functions. Use of fractional and quantum calculus in complex analysis, causing conformal mapping and related research area in applications of complex analysis. In the recent years, the field of complex analysis was involved into various new areas, including random conformal maps, dynamatical systems, geometrical functions theory, broadly constructed, and it has been seen applications to discrete networks. While all these directions have their roots in complex analysis, the threads of this research in the separate area have diverged subsequently. Greater interaction between these various floors of complex analysis will enhance the development of entire field. This conference intends to foster an interaction between the experts and early career mathematics in the field of complex analysis. The organizer is making an effort to attract younger and minorities researchers to participate. The structure of the conference will comprise two talks directed at the beginning researchers that was focused on presenting and discussing fundamental ideas in the field. The Department of Mathematics was established in 1965. Today, we have UG and PG courses in mathematics along with the guidance for MPhil and PhD. Some short courses and skill-based courses are also conducted by the Department of Mathematics. The devoted researchers Dr. S.P. Vallal, Department of Mathematics, Savitribai Phule, Pune University, Pune, and Dr. K.D. Kuche, Department of Mathematics, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, are invited as a research persons. I am happy to introduce the chief speakers. Dr. S.B. Vallal has been working as Assistant Professor, Department of Mathematics, Savitribai Phule, Pune University, Pune. He has given academic and administrative contributions at university level. Research publications are 11 to his credit. He has completed one major and minor projects. Second speaker, Dr. K.D. Kuche, has been working as Assistant Professor, Department of Mathematics, Shivaji University, Kolhapur. He has been working on academic and administrative bodies at university level. Research publications are 30 to his credit. I am happy to say here that more than 650 participants are various states like Maharashtra, Delhi, Goa, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, etc. are participating in this webinar. Once again, I welcome all of you in this national event from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patil sir. May I now request our principal, Dr. Mohan Rajmani Sahib, who is presiding over this webinar, to deliver his inaugural speech.
A very good morning to one and all. Guest speakers, Dr. Vallal sir from Pune, Dr. Kuche sir from Kolhapur, Vice Principal S.A. Patil sir, Dr. Girish Kalyan Shetty sir, Agarwal sir, all the teaching faculty and all the delegate friends. I am very happy to meet you at this online national webinar on modern aspects of complex analysis and its applications. First of all, I congratulate the Department of Mathematics and IQAC cell of our college for organizing national level webinar on this topic. Friends, at the last couple of months, we have been facing a global pandemic called COVID-19. The whole world is affected by this. We the teachers are away from the class, away from the students, and away from the campus. However, we have been working from the home. We are conducting online teaching. We are organizing meetings with the teachers as well as students with the help of Zoom, webinar on various urgent issues. Today's webinar is one such instance. Before we start the proceeding, I would like to briefly introduce my college. The college is established in 1954, Sadhguru Gadge Maharaj College, Karad, an autonomous college, which is one of the biggest college as well as well-known multi-faculty college in the jurisdiction of Shivaji University, Kolhapur, Maharashtra. This college is recognized by University Grant Commission with 2F and 12B. The college offers all diversified programs in conventional, non-conventional, and professional modes in arts, commerce, and science discipline. Apart from this, the college imparts skill and career-oriented courses through 7 COC programs, 27 short-term courses. This college is a NAC accredited in 2017 with A+ grade, having 3.63 CGP. And this college is also ISO 9001:2015 certified college. Recognizing its contribution to higher education. The college is awarded with the status of community college by UGC. I am proud to say, since June 2019, the college has been functioning as an autonomous college. Today, the Department of Mathematics has organized a national level webinar on an important issue. I am sure the deliberations in this webinar will help our students and teachers to gain understanding and knowledge about the modern aspects in mathematics. I wish you all a very good luck. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your brief but precise address. Now I'd like to request today's resource person, Dr. K. Sir, Assistant Professor in Mathematics, Department of Mathematics, Shivaji University, Kolhapur, to share his expertise on the topic modern aspects of complex analysis and its applications. Dr. K.D. Kuche, sir.
Hello. If I am audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Good morning, one and all. Firstly, I thank organizing committee for inviting me, and I am happy to deliver a talk in this national webinar on modern aspect of complex analysis and its application. Though there may be many participants in this webinar which are doing on research, which are doing research in complex analysis, but my main target audience for this webinar is UG and PG students. So I have prepared my material keeping in the mind the student of undergraduate and postgraduate who are beginners. Okay, so firstly, I start with the basics of the concepts of differentiability. Then I will go to the concept of analyticity through radius of convergence through Cauchy-Riemann equation, and then I will discuss a power series. Okay, so we will consider a G is an open set in C. Let f from G to C is we will say that a function f from G to C is differentiable at point Z belongs to G if this limit is exist. If this limit is exist, we are denoting it by f dash of Z. These are the two, these two forms are equivalent just after replacing H by Z minus Z. As in the real case, we know that when we say that limit is exist, in the real case, there are only two paths, either from left hand side of the point and or from the right hand side of the point. But we have to take care here while taking the limit. In the above definition, it requires that this must approach to the same value regardless of the path of S tending to 0. As we are in a complex plane, so say xy plane, so when S tending to 0, if you are saying there are a number of directions, infinite number of directions are there. So limit must be exist on each path on which we are taking the on which path we are considering, and all must have the same value. That is the required. Okay, so we do not have the freedom of as in a complex variable in the real case, because in real case only two paths are there while considering the limit, and while considering the limit in complex we have number of paths, and on each path limit must be exist and have the equal value. Now, if the function is differentiable at each point on G, then it defines a function. We will denote it by f dash of G, f dash from G to C, and it will be defined in this way, provided limit is exist at each point. If differentiability is there for the function and that derivative is continuous on G, then we will call that function is continuously differentiable. And continuously differentiable function we will call analytic function. So we will go for some basic theorem. So this is the function f from g. We know that any complex valued function with complex domain can be expressed in this form ux y plus ivxy. Okay, and we say that this function is continuous at this point if and only if its real part and imaginary part uxy and vxy both are continuous at the point x naught and y naught. While creating with these two function u, real part of the function f, this g we will treat as a subset of r cross r, and when whatever the analysis we do for u and v, that will be treated as a subset of r cross r with the Euclidean distance. Now continuity of this function of two variable real valued functions we will discuss here. So we will say that the function of two variable phi of xy has limit L as xy tending to x naught y. If for given epsilon there is del, our usual definition epsilon del definition, but the distance of these 2 points xy and x naught y naught is taken in your R square Euclidean space. Okay, this is distance in xy plane. If this limit is L, okay, this limit L is g of x naught y naught, then this definition will be converted in the form of continuity at the point of x naught, where at that time this strict inequality 0 less than is not required. This may be equal to 0. Again, while taking this limit, we have to concentrate on the path xy tending to x naught y naught. Now, as in the real case, the function on complex domain with complex valued, if it is differentiable at a point, then it is continuous. So differentiability on G implies its continuity on G, but not conversely. So continuity of F need not imply the differentiability of F. We will support with the example. Suppose this is the function defined by f of z is equal to mod z square. Mod z square, we will know that it is x square plus y square. We will separate in the two part, u plus iv. So real part will be this, u of xy is equal to x square plus y square, and v of xy is equal to 0. And one can easily see that these two functions are continuous because polynomials in xy are continuous. This is constant continuous. Okay, so we will prove that this function is continuous. This function is continuous, but cannot be differentiable at any point different from 0. So we will consider non-zero complex number, and we will evaluate this quotient fz naught plus h minus fz naught upon h by definition of fz. This is fz is mod z square. This will be converted to in this form after calculation using your property mod of z is equal to zz bar square. Okay, and we will consider different path of h. S tending to 0. So firstly we'll take the path h is equal to ik, means our path will be on the imaginary positive axis or imaginary axis, say. Okay, so at that time h bar upon h will be converted to -1, and when we will consider h on the real axis, means h is equal to k, for k is a real number, at that time h bar upon h converted to h1. So if we consider this equation 1, we will get the different values for this quotient on different path. On imaginary axis we will get different value, on real axis we will get different value. Therefore the limit of this quantity will give the different value on different parts. So limit does not exist, and we will say that this function is not differentiable at any complex number different from 0. But when we will consider z naught is equal to 0, and we will calculate this division f0 plus h minus f0 upon h. Okay, if putting z naught is equal to 0 in this expression, we will left with h bar only. Okay, and this h bar tending to 0 as h tending to 0. So this limit is exist and which is regardless of the path on which h tending to 0, and we will getting the value of derivative is equal to 0 at 0. Okay, so this function which we have defined f of z is equal to mod square is differentiable only at 0 and not other points on c minus 0. Similarly, this example f of z is equal to mod z, this is continuous everywhere but nowhere differentiable. So again we can convert this function in the two part, u of xy u plus iv. Here u is your real part, under root x square plus y square, v is your 0. We will first discuss the differentiability on 0. Calculate this ratio f0 plus h minus f of 0 upon h. Okay, After calculating, you will get it is mod h upon h. If you are considering the value of h on the positive real axis, it will give, this ratio will be converted to 1. If you are considering h on the negative axis, this ratio will be converted to -1. If h is on positive imaginary axis, it will be converted to -I, and if when h is on negative imaginary axis, it will be converted to your I. Okay, and if you are taking the limit of this quantity as h tending to 0 on this different path, on positive real axis, negative real axis, positive imaginary axis, and positive imaginary axis, we will get the different values on each path. So limit is not exist. Limit of this quantity is not exist. So we say that function is not differentiable on 0. Now we will prove that the function f of z mod z is not differentiable other than 0 also, not at the point other than 0 also. On contrary, suppose this function is differentiable. F of z is equal to mod z is differentiable at non-zero point. And we know that if function is differentiable, two functions are differentiable, their product is also differentiable. So if mod z we are considering differentiable at z0, then obviously mod z square, product of two function, is again differentiable at z0, not equal to 0. But already we have proved that this is nowhere differentiable, not differentiable at the point not equal to 0. Okay, so already we have proved that this function is not differentiable on 0. Here we are proving that this is not differentiable at the point different from 0. So this function is differentiable at no point of the complex plane. So this function is nowhere differentiable. Now we will compare these two functions with the real valued case. See, if we define function from R to R by f of x is equal to mod x, we are studying this function right from our 12th standard actually, and we know that this function is continuous but differentiable on R minus 0. It is not differentiable at 0. And when we are considering its derivative, so its derivative after calculation, we will get f dash of x is equal to x upon mod x, which is signum function. But its counterpart, complex counterpart, f of z is equal to mod z is nowhere differentiable. See, if you are considering real valued case on real domain, this function is differentiable on R minus 0. And if you are considering the complex valued function on complex domain, this function is nowhere differentiable. So we can't treat the theory of real complex analysis in the similar manner as in the real case. This is another example. Say f of r is equal to f from R to R defined by f of x is equal to mod x square. After using the property of mod x square, it will be converted to x square. Note that this function is differentiable everywhere in the real case. But just we have seen that this function is only differentiable at origin only. Okay, so already I have mentioned that we can't create the analysis of complex as analysis of real numbers. Okay, now we will consider the function, real valued function with the complex domain. Up till now, we have considered a function with complex domain, complex codomain. Now, if we consider the function with complex domain and codomain is real, means real valued function with complex variable, such function has either derivative 0 or derivative does not exist. Okay, we will see exactly. Suppose this is the function with complex domain but real valued. Take any point in G and we will consider this formula for the derivative f dash of z, limit s tending to 0. As domain is complex, we have to consider s tending to 0 in the different direction. Okay, so first we will consider the direction s tending to 0 on real axis. If this h is on real axis, f is real valued, this will be real number, this will be real number, this will be real number. So this subtraction, division will be a real number and limit we will expecting a real number. So in this case, our real limit will be purely real number. But when we consider s tending to 0 along the imaginary axis, your ratio, your subtraction will be real number, but denominator will be imaginary, and you will be converted in this format. Whatever the limit we will get in this case, that will be purely imaginary. So to exist the derivative, these two quantity, this purely real number given in equation 2, purely imaginary number given in equation number 3, I will take annotation here, so just wait. annotation symbol is not there. Okay, okay, no problem. So in these two equation, to get the equal value, we must have purely real number is equal to purely imaginary number, and we will know that this happen only for the zero only. Either this purely real number and purely imaginary number are completely different, so limit is not exist in that case. And to have this right hand side equal, we must have on the both sides zero. So if derivatives exist, it is zero derivative only for any complex number, or derivative does not exist. That's why we are not considering the analysis or theory of such function for the study. Okay, because derivative, if it exists, it gives zero value at any point, and otherwise derivative does not exist. Okay, so we are not considering. Therefore, the whole theory of complex analysis is developed with complex domain. Okay. This is the example in support of Abou theorem. Suppose this is the function defined by f of z is equal to real part of z. Okay, so real part of z is a real number. Okay, so this is the function with complex domain and real codomain. And to find out the limit of this quantity, we will consider h of the form s plus it, because domain is complex. And this value will assume near to h, because we have to take the limit h is tending to 0 and calculate this quantity. Using the definition of f of z, this will be converted into this form, z plus h naught. Its real part will be x naught plus s, and real part of z naught is your x naught. After calculating this, it will get yes will be your real part of h upon h. Now we will consider the two paths for h tending to 0. Firstly, we will consider h is on real axis, and secondly, we will consider h is on imaginary axis. If h is on real axis, what will happen? Real part of h will be h upon h will be 1, and if it is on imaginary axis, real part will be 0, and this quantity will be converted to 0. So on the real axis, we will get different value 1 as h tending to 0. On imaginary axis, we will get the value 0 when h tending to 0. So this limit is not exist. So real part of z is nowhere differentiable on C. On the similar line, imaginary part of z, mod z, z bar, argument of z, all are the functions which are nowhere differentiable on C. Sorry for this, this is blurred image, but I will explain to you. This theorem we are studying right from our basic analysis, real analysis. If domain is interval and f dash of x is equal to 0, then the function is constant. Similar type of theorem we will deal with complex domain and complex codomain. If G is open and connected set, concentrate on this point. If G is open and connected set, and derivative of f at all points in the domain is equal to 0, then f is constant. Okay, what is the meaning of constant function? We know that every point in the domain gives the single image in codomain. That we will call a constant function. Okay. For this theorem, connectedness is important. While dealing with differentiability, domain must be open set, because we are not able to take the chance while taking the limit, because when we are speaking that is tending to 0, okay, 0 must be the limit point of the domain. Okay, that requirement is satisfied by openness. That's why we are considering always domain of differentiability is open set. But for the trueness of this theorem, okay, we require domain must be connected. Suppose if the domain connectedness is open, connectedness is removed from this theorem, this theorem is not true. So Abou theorem is not true if G is open set, which is not connected. I will give the counter example for that. Suppose G is this theorem, G is this set, is a union of two set. One part I am taking the inside of the circle. This is set of all complex number satisfying this condition mod Z. Interior of unit circle, and this is exterior of the exterior of the circle with center 0 and radius is 2. This is open set, and we know that union of open set is open, so G is open set, but this is not connected. What is connected set is? It cannot be expressed as union of two non-empty disjoint open set or closed set. Okay, but this G we have expressed in the form of union of two non-empty disjoint open set. Therefore, this set is not connected. And we will define this function f from G to C by like this: f of Z is equal to 4 when it lies between inside the circle, and outside the circle with radius 2, we will define it phi u. so one can observe that this function is not constant function because it gives two images for 4 and 5u. For constantness, we require one image in codomain for all the points in the domain. We note that f dash of z is equal to 0 for all the points in G, but this function is not constant. Why this happen? Because we have taken a not connected domain. So for the trueness of this theorem, the domain must be connected. That is required. Now we will see the application of this theorem. See this identity we are using right from our when we have started the calculus, studying the calculus part. E raised to a plus b is equal to e raised to a into e raised to b for all complex number a, b, c, a, b. Okay. So with the help of the theorem just we have proved here. Okay. G is open connected set. F from G to C is differentiable. Derivative must be 0 at all the point. Then this function is constant. Using that, we can prove this identity. Okay, so we will define fix a belongs to C, define the function in this manner. Okay, so don't assume that e raised to z, e raised to a minus z, z get cancelled and it will be finally remain e raised to a, because we have not proved this property yet. Okay, so this is, we are considering product of two exponential function. One is e raised to z and another is e raised to a minus z. And as we know, exponential functions are analytic, product of two functions are analytic. Okay. This is differentiable function and its derivative, we will see that it will get 0 for all values in G. Okay. So since G exponential function is analytic, G is analytic, so differentiability is there. Okay. And a derivative 0. So using above theorem, this is constant. G is constant. C is open and connected. Okay. With your usual distance. So we will take G of z is equal to W. Suppose for all z, in particularly all the images of the point, all the under G, all the G gives images is equal to W for all the points in the domain. In particularly, it will give the W for 0 also. Okay. From 1, if you calculate G of 0, it will get your e raised to a. So after replacing W here by e raised to a, we will get G of z is equal to e raised to a. Okay. So G of z is nothing but your e raised to z, e raised to a minus z. Already we have defined here. Okay. So we are getting here. Okay. But a I can write in this format, z plus a minus z. Using the commutativity in complex number. I am not using still exponential property here. So if you vary z in whole complex set, your a minus z will be vary in whole complex set, so that this theorem get proved. E raised to a into e raised to b is equal to e raised to a plus b. On the similar line, we can prove these identities also for the cos z plus w and sin z plus w in using this theorem. Okay. Now we will link differentiability and analyticity. Okay. So as already I have discussed, any function, complex valued function with complex domain can be written in this form, u xy plus I v xy. Okay. And we will say that this function is differentiable by this theorem. Okay. If this function is differentiable at this point, then fx and fy exist, x naught at x naught and y naught. I will repeat again. If f of z is equal to u xy plus I xy is differentiable at this point, z naught is equal to x naught plus I y naught, then fx and fy exist at this point, where fx is nothing but what your, this is dou u by dou x plus I dou v by dou x. In brief, we will write in this form ux plus I v x, and fy is nothing but dou u by dou y plus I dou v by dou y. We will write this is u y plus I v y. Okay. So in that, and this derivative will be given in this form, ux plus I v x at x naught y naught. Okay. This is ordered pair x naught y naught corresponding to the complex number x naught I y naught. Okay. So just we have taken here, if it is differentiable at z naught, then its derivative is given in this fashion. Actually, we have to think this theorem firstly and then this. Okay. If f of z is this u plus iv and it is differentiable at z naught, then all the partial derivative of u v with respect to x y exist at x naught y naught, and they satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation. Okay, so differentiability implies is that if differentiability function is differentiable at z naught, then u and v satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation at x naught y naught. But converse of this theorem is not true. Okay, so differentiability is a necessary condition. When the function is differentiable at the point, it must satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation at that point. But if the function satisfies the Cauchy-Riemann equation at the point, it may not be differentiable at that point. So we will give the example later on. Okay. So these three conditions are the equivalent form for the Cauchy-Riemann equation. If f of z is equal to u plus iv, it is differentiable at z naught. Okay. Then these all conditions are equivalent. Derivative of f, partial derivative of f with respect to z at z naught is equal to 0. Fx at x naught y naught is equal to minus I f at x naught y naught, and this is Cauchy-Riemann equation. Okay. So we can take the derivative of f partially with respect to z bar by iterating. We know that if z is equal to x plus I, y, x can be written in this form, y can be written in this form. So this function f of z can be treated as the function of z and z bar. So I can take the partial derivative of f with respect to z bar and z also. Okay. So already I have discussed that differentiability is the necessary condition. If the function is differentiable at point this, then it must satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation. This Cauchy-Riemann equation is called the complex form of the Cauchy-Riemann equation. Okay. Now, whatever I have discussed here, which are important to prove the non-differentiability of function. Because already we have discussed that differentiability must implies that Cauchy-Riemann equation. So P implies this Q is equivalent to negation of Q is implies this negation of P. So non-Cauchy implies this function is not differentiable. So Cauchy-Riemann equations are more useful in proving non-differentiability. Suppose this example, f is defined by f of z is equal to z bar. And if you take the partial derivative of f with respect to z bar at z, for all z in C, we will see derivative is equal to 1. To satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation, we require here 0, but we are getting here non-zero quantity. So this function is nowhere differentiable. Similarly, real part we can write in this format. We will take its derivative, will be 1 by 2. Its value at z for all z belongs to C give half. So this is nowhere differentiable. On the similar line, we can prove that this is nowhere differentiable function. Okay. So as already I have discussed, the corners part is not true. Differentiability implies this Cauchy-Riemann equation, but Cauchy-Riemann equation need not imply your differentiability. Okay. In the support of that, I am giving here example. Suppose f from C to C is defined in this way: f of x plus iy is equal to this quantity. I can separate this in the form of u plus iv, where by defining u of xy is equal to u of xy. One can observe that these two functions are continuous at origin. Therefore, as already I have discussed, if real and imaginary part of the functions are continuous, then your complex valued function is also continuous. Okay. So this function is continuous at origin, but derivative is not exist. So let us calculate. It satisfies Cauchy-Riemann equation also at origin. So we'll calculate ux at 0, 0, partial derivative. So we are keeping second variable constant here because we are taking the partial derivative with respect to x. So this is u0 plus h minus u00 upon h. After calculating, we are getting 1. Calculating similar fashion other derivatives. Okay. What we will get here, Cauchy-Riemann equation is satisfied at origin. But we see that though this function satisfies the Cauchy-Riemann equation at origin, this function is not differentiable at origin. See, we will calculate this derivative of the function at origin. For that, we will take this ratio f0 plus s minus f of 0 upon h. If you are taking the limit and if this limit is exist, that will give the derivative of the function at 0. We will consider the value of h on this s is equal to t line. So I am taking h is equal to s plus is. S is the real number which is not equal to 0. And after calculating using the definition of s, you will get 1 plus I by 2 on this line. And if you are considering h on the real line, means h is of this form, s plus I0, okay, this ratio will be converted in the form of 1 plus I. So this quantity will give two values, 1 plus I by 2 and 1 plus I. 1 plus I by 2 when h is on this line with slope with degree 45u with positive axis, and when h is on the real line, it will give 1 plus I. So limit does not exist. It will give a different value on different path. On this line, it will give 1 plus I by 2, and on the real line, this limit will give 1 plus I. Okay, so this limit is not exist, therefore f is not differentiable. So what we have given here, we have given an example in support of that. This function, okay, the real part and imaginary part satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation at origin, though it satisfies the Cauchy-Riemann equation, but the function is not differentiable at origin. Okay, so what the additional condition is required on the Cauchy-Riemann equation, so that Cauchy-Riemann equation gives your differentiability. Okay, so that is obtained by this theorem, next theorem. Okay, this is the function from G to C. G is open set containing the points H head naught. F is expressed in the form of U plus IV, and this 1-2 condition must be satisfied. All derivatives of UV with respect to XY exist in some neighborhood of Z naught. This condition is required. So differentiability of partial derivatives must be exist in some neighborhood of this point, and Cauchy-Riemann equation must be satisfied at Z naught. Then we can guarantee the differentiability of Z. So this is the additional condition we require. Okay, these partial derivatives must be exist on some neighborhood of Z naught. Then we can give the differentiability. Okay, now we will consider definition of analyticity in the form of point. When we say that the function is analytic at a point, it should be differentiable in some neighborhood of the point A. Then we can say that the function is analytic. Okay, so analyticity is more than the differentiability. What the differentiability is required, only differentiability at that point we required. But when we consider at that point analyticity, differentiability other than A also we require in some neighborhood of A. Okay, that is the requirement. Okay. We have to concentrate here. Just we have told that if F is analytic at A, there is some open ball or C neighborhood with center A and radius R. So this is the circle with center A and radius R. Okay. So function must be differentiable in this point. All the points inside the circle with center A and radius R. But if we take any point Z belongs to BAR, we can construct some open ball around it, which is subset of BAR. Mathematically, I can give this distance Z from the boundary. Z from the boundary of the circle with center A and radius R, that we can be act as a radius, that I will call epsilon, and we will see that BZ epsilon is equal to BR. Now see that due to definition of analyticity, differentiability is on BR, so automatically I will get differentiability on BZ epsilon R. So definition of analyticity is also satisfied for this point also. So what I can guess here, if F is analytic at point A, okay, then F is analytic at every point in some neighborhood of that point. From this, what we can get the conclusion is that if we collect all the points of the function where it is analytic, it must form an open set. I will repeat my statement again. When we collect all the points of the analyticity of the function, that collected all points must form an open set. Okay. Therefore, we can go safely for this theorem which we are studying in the book of J.B. Conway. If U and V are the real part of the function F and F of Z is defined in this format, then we will say that F is analytic if and only if U is satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation. This theorem gives no confusion at all for the differentiability Cauchy-Riemann equation and Cauchy-Riemann to differentiability, because we are considering domain here is an open set. Okay, so all the condition of this theorem automatically get satisfied. This, okay, while moving toward Cauchy-Riemann equation toward differentiability. Okay, so and again this theorem, Gauss-Seidel theorem, very important theorem. Gauss-Seidel theorem said that if the domain is open set and if we have dealt with differentiability only, we know the differentiability of the function on open set, then it gives analyticness. Okay, so any differentiable function on the open set is always analytic. That is the great achievement by the Gauss-Seidel. Okay, so just differentiability guarantee the analyticity of the function. Okay, so here are some examples which I will discuss about non-analyticity. So consider this function f of z is equal to u plus iv, where u I will take x square, v I will take y square. Calculate the derivative, and to satisfy the Cauchy-Riemann equation, we must have this equation: ux is equal to vyc, ux is equal to vy. We must have 2x is equal to 2y, so x is equal to y. So observe that the Cauchy-Riemann equation is satisfied on this line only. On this line only. Okay. Now, if we consider any point here, and we will consider its different derivative in the neighborhood, derivative does not exist in the neighborhood on this line. consider any point in this line, take its neighborhood, we can't expect the derivative. Other than the point on the line, okay? So I have the differentiability on this line. So F is differentiable on the line only y is equal to x, means at the point on the line y is equal to x, the complex, all the point will have this format, 1 plus I x, x belongs to R. So F is differentiable at here, but it is not, nowhere, F is not differentiable in any neighborhood of this point. Okay, because Cauchy-Riemann equation is satisfied only at this point on this line, and any neighborhood of the point on the line does not is not the subset of this line. Okay, so I am getting here differentiability, but I am not getting the differentiability in the neighborhood of the points on this line. So function is not analytic. Okay, so see, from our definition, it follows that this function is differentiable at this point, but nowhere analytic. Okay, so I have given the example here. The function may be differentiable. Okay, so this function is differentiable on this line, y is equal to x, but nowhere analytic on this complex plane. Similarly, consider another example. U plus iv, where u is equal to this and v is equal to xy. Okay. Each partial derivative exists and continuous. CR equation is satisfied at the origin. So differentiability is at the origin. Okay. But F is not differentiable in any neighborhood of z is equal to 0. Okay. Therefore, this function is not analytic at z is equal to 0. This is another example which we have considered. See, Cauchy-Riemann equation exists and satisfies at all points in the complex plane. Each partial derivative continuous on C also, and CR equation satisfied at all points in C. So, and we know that C is the open set. So all the conditions are satisfied on open set. So I can say that the function is differentiable as well as analytic on C. Okay. Now I will take hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Can I take again 10 minutes? Hello.
Correct.
Can I take again 10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will take again 10 minutes and I will finish mine.
Okay. Okay.
Now, this is one approach of analyticity. I have discussed analyticity through Cauchy-Riemann equation and through the differentiability. Okay. Now I will go for the power series. Okay. Now, this is, we know the power series, general form of, we have studied in real analysis also, and now we are dealing in the complex analysis. Okay, so these ANs are complex number for all n is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, and A is a fixed complex number. Okay. What is given in this power series? The sequence AN is given to us, A is given to S, and we have to determine for which values of Z this complex series get convergent. Okay. So this series of this form with AN is known, A is known, is called your power series about A. While studying the power series, we arrive at the three questions. Okay. First, for what values of Z this series get converged? Okay. If this series is convergent for values of Z, we will collect, if we collect all that values of Z, okay, and if we define the function f of Z on that set by this series, what properties will be attributed with that function? Yep, that is my second question. And third question, if some function is given on the complex domain, complex valued function, okay, can I represent that function in the form of power series in some neighborhood? Okay, so we will answer this question one by one. So while studying any type of power series, generally we will consider of three questions only. For what values of this, for what values of Z this series is convergent? If we collect all the points where it convergent, and we'll define the function on that in the form of series, what property that function F bears? And if we consider any function, what should be the condition so that that function can be expressed in the form of power series? So first we'll deal with this question. For what values of Z this series is convergent? Okay, so this is the first theorem which we may have studied. This is the power series. For that, we will define a real number between 0 to infinity, including 0 as well as infinity symbol by this number. 1 upon r is equal to limit superior of the sequence. This sequence is taken from this. It's an, its mod is 1 by nth root. And this limit is always exist in the sense that it may be finite, may be 0, or we have included this symbol infinity. So this may be your r may be infinity. In that sense, it is exists in the extended real number with positive infinity symbol. So this theorem says that if we have defined this number r by this quantity 1 upon r is equal to limit superior, then this series is convergent for all values of z for which mod z minus a less than r. We know that if you consider mod z minus a is equal to r, that represent your circle with center a and radius capital R. Okay. And if mod z minus a greater than r, this series is divergent. And if you are considering any radius less than capital R, on that set, on this set of all z belongs to C, z minus a less than r equal to r, this series is uniformly convergent. Okay. And this R number is the unique number satisfying these two property A and B. Okay. So I will explain this geometrically. Suppose this square bracket is your complex plane. Okay. I will consider this circle mod z minus a is equal to r. So this is my big circle. This circle with center A and radius r. Okay. So what this theorem says, if your z lies inside this circle, okay. So this series is convergent with this r. If your z is outside the circle, means this circle outside this portion, okay, this black portion, this series is divergent. And if I am considering any radius smaller than capital R, in that this circle, red circle, this series is uniformly convergent. But what about the boundary of this circle mod z minus a is equal to r? So this is the mystery. We can conclude whether the series is convergent or divergent on the circle z minus a is equal to r. So we have some remark, no conclusion concerning the convergence of series on the circle mod z minus a is equal to r. We are taking the convention, though it is undefined quantity 1 upon 0, we are taking infinity, and 1 upon infinity is equal to 0, though it is mathematically not justifiable, but as a convention we are taking here 1 upon 0 is infinity and 1 upon infinity is equal to 0, because quantity here r includes both the values 0 and infinity. So if I am taking r is equal to 0, 1 upon 0 must be defined, na? So 1 upon 0 we are taking infinity, and if I am taking r is equal to infinity, at that time 1 upon infinity must be defined. So by conventional we are taking. If after calculating r is equal to infinity, what it gives, this series is converges for all z, okay. And if r equal to 0, this series is converges at only origin when z is equal to a, okay. And for all other point it is diverges, okay. And the number defined by this way is called radius of convergence. This we will know. Okay. Now we will go for the alternative theorem for the radius of convergence. Though in many books this theorem is stated as radius of convergence, but I will disagree with that, because to define a radius of convergence, the right hand side part must be exist. Okay. So what this theorem is says that if the radius of convergence of this series is known, if radius of convergence of this series is known, and if this limit is exist, an upon an plus 1, because this limit may not be exist. If this limit is exist, that limit coincides with the radius of convergence. Okay, that is the meaning of this theorem is. Okay, so we can't take this formula as a definition of radius of convergence, because limit may not be exist. Just I will give an example. Okay, suppose this series, consider this series, compare with the our power series a n z minus a is equal to n. So this a is your 0, a naught is 3, a1 is 1, a2 is 3, a3 is 1, a4 is 1. Okay, and calculate this ratio a naught upon 1. I am calculating this ratio an upon an plus 1. So for n is equal to 0, it will be what? A naught upon a1. Then for 1 it is a1 upon a2. So see this, a naught upon 1 is 3, a1 upon a2 is 1 by 3. So I am getting oscillating sequence, and this series is not convergent. So limit convergent means this actually limit not exist for this sequence. Okay, so limit is not exist in this case, because if you are considering this is convergent, limit must be unique. But I can produce two subsequences which one gives limit 3 and another gives limit 1/3. So this limit does not exist. Okay, so I can consider for calculating the radius of convergence this formula provided limit must be exist. Okay, so these are some example. Okay, choose appropriate theorem or formula for convergence of the series. Okay, here we cannot apply directly the ratio test because power in the form of 3 raised to n, so we have to use this formula only. Okay, so we have to determine what ans are. Okay, accordingly that we have calculated this and we have taken the limit superior, and that gives you 7/3. Okay, here we cannot go for the ratio test again because it will be complicated by doing that. So we have to choose root test here for checking the radius of convergence. Okay, and here root test is inappropriate because limit calculating the limit make trouble to us. Okay, in that sense. Now second question is that what properties may be attributed by the power series where it is convergent. Okay, so now suppose the series is convergent, we have the radius of convergence is known. This series is got after term by term differentiation. So actually this is the kth derivative of this series. Here we have taken first derivative, second derivative, third derivative. Accordingly it is your kth derivative. Okay, so what this theorem is say, if the radius of convergence of this series is known, then its all derivative have the same radius of convergence, real number r. What additional information I am getting from this theorem is that it is infinitely differentiable on BAR. Infinitely differentiable on BAR. Okay, so just knowing the radius of convergence of the given series, I can guess the radius of convergence of its derivative also, which give the same value. And again, knowing the radius of convergence of the given power series, it guarantees the infinite time differentiation of that function f of z is equal to on this open ball BAR. From that, we can draw very important conclusion. Okay, this is we know if the function is continuously differentiable, it is analytic. Okay, so suppose this series has radius of convergence r greater than 0, then f of z is analytic in this open ball. Okay, because in theorem we have shown that it is infinitely differentiable on BR if the radius of convergence no. See, just we are discussing the analyticity of the power series through the radius of convergence. If radius of convergence is known, then we can talk about the analyticity, this part, analyticity. Okay, so it is analytic on BAR, and we can prove the derivative formula from this also. Exponential derivative e raised to z is equal to e raised to z, because when we go to calculate the derivative through the limit, we have to concentrate on the on which path and on which s tending to 0. Okay, so we will express this series in the form of series representation. Radius of convergence is infinity, so it will be analytic on b0 infinity. B0 infinity is your whole complex number, so I am getting the function analytics. So see, e raised to z is analytic. We have discussed it through the radius of convergence. Okay, and after term by term differentiation, as allowed in the last theorem, we have the derivative e raised to z. On the similar line, we can prove the analyticity of sin z, cos z, and its derivative. After knowing the differentiability and analyticity of complex valued function e raised to z, sin z, cos z, we can think about the differentiability and analyticity of other functions, sin z, cos, tan, cot, sec, cosec, because all sin, cos, tan, cot, that all trigonometric function we can express in the form of what your sin z, cos z, or e raised to z. This is theorem about the radius of convergence regarding your addition of two convergence series and product of two convergence series. Okay, so if first series has radius of convergence r1, second series has radius of convergence r2, then addition may have the radius of convergence greater than or equal to minimum of 2, and product also has radius of convergence greater than or equal to minimum of radius of convergence of both series, where the product is taken in the Cauchy sense. This is Cauchy product of the two series. Okay, so we will give the example that if the radius of convergence of the product and addition may be greater than or equal to radius of convergence of the both series. So this is the first example. Suppose f of z is equal to this. Yep. G of z is minus z raised to n. So an is equal to 1 and bn is equal to minus n after comparing with the standard power series. So for first, we can calculate radius of convergence is 1. For the second series, radius of convergence is 2. But take the addition. We will get this sum is equal to 0. So I can have 0 z raised to n. And this series converges for all z because it generates the summation 0. So what is the radius of convergence is infinity. See, radius of convergence of this series is 1. This is my 1. But radius of convergence of the addition is infinity. So it may exceed than both series. Okay. And this is the last part about the product. Okay. So I am considering here the two series. For the first one, radius of convergence is 2. Second one, it is 1. But see the product. Okay. I have eliminated first term here and the last term here. After putting the value of an and bn from this, we will arrive at this 0. So product is 0 series. Okay. And this is infinite. This product has infinite radius of convergence, but the first series has radius of convergence half, second series has radius of convergence 1, but the product has radius of convergence infinity. Now the third question, I will take last 2 minutes. Under what condition this function may be represented at the power series? And the answer is given by the Taylor's theorem. To represent any function in the form of power series, we require the analyticity on the BAR. So open ball or function is analytic on BAR A in this format where n is provided in this way. Okay. And this series has radius of convergence greater than or equal to. Though this series is valid for, we are writing firstly it is valid for z minus a less than r. But after calculating, this series may have the radius of convergence greater than or equal to r. From this theorem, we can derive directly. So we have considered this analyticness on BAR. But if you are considering analyticity on G, and if you are taking any point on A belongs to G, then still we can express this in the form of series where we will take the radius when we are taking A in this set, join A with, we will take the distance of the point from the boundary, and we are defining distance of the point from the set in the form of infimum of all the distances from the point. Okay. So if it is analytic, it has a power series expression and valid in this region where R is calculated from this formula. Okay. And from this we will get this last F from G to C is analytic, then it has an infinite number of differentiation. Okay. With this, I stop here. If anybody have any question, I will try to give the answers, please.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello. My presentation is over. If any questions, I can give the answer. I will try for giving the answer.
Questions. If anyone question, if anybody wants to ask any question, if anybody has any query, he can ask question to Dr. Kuche. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kuche sir, for your detailed explanation of all the modern aspects of complex analysis and how to apply them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Once again, may I now request to another resource person, Dr. S.B. Ballar, Assistant Professor in Mathematics, Savitribai Phule Pune University, Pune, to share his knowledge on the topic of this webinar, that is modern aspects of complex analysis and its applications. Dr. S.B. Ballar, sir.
Am I audible?
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Good morning to all. I firstly thank Principal of SGM College Karad, Rajmane sir, and Vice Principal and Head Department of Mathematics, S.A. Patil sir, and his team for organizing such a wonderful national level session for the researchers and students and the faculties. Also, I thankful to the first speaker, Dr. Kuche, for finishing his session on time. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
audible? Okay.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Uh,
You are clearly audible. Okay. You can continue.
so this is the outline of my talk. So introduction, Cauchy theorems and Cauchy integral formula, and I'll talk about the applications and some open problems and conjectures for the new budding researchers. So as explained by Professor S.A. Patil sir, he gave the brief idea about the uh, origin and history of complex numbers and complex analysis. So basically, the complex number is originated from the study of equations of the type that you can see x plus 1 y square equal to minus 9. Say for example, such a degree 2 polynomials may not have a solution in reals. So that is the origin of complex numbers. So I don't waste as much time on that. So let me start with the foundation of the Cauchy theorem and Cauchy integral formula. So for that, what is required is the index number. And what is the index number? So for that, what we required is a closed rectifiable curve and a point outside that. Then we can check that this integral dz upon z minus a over gamma and 1 upon 2 pi, that is an integer. So here I am not giving the proofs of any theorem, but this is just the requirement for the further discussion. And this number, we call it as the index of gamma. Also it is called as a winding number with respect to that gamma, which is a closed rectifiable curve. So, and that index number, that is a curve. So what is the minus of gamma can be defined like this. And how to add two curves, the definition is given here. So these are the some prerequisites which are required for the further study, that if gamma 1, gamma naught and gamma 1 are two closed rectifiable curves in a region G, then gamma naught is homotopic to gamma 1 in G if there is a continuous function from close 0 1 cross close 0 1 to G such that the gamma of s comma 0 is gamma s and gamma of s comma 1 is gamma n gamma 1 s and gamma of 0 comma t is gamma of 1 comma t, are these two are the same. So we require definition of convex set. G is said to be convex if we take 2 points in G, then the line joining 2 points lies in G. And G is said to be star shaped if we take any point in G, then for each point in G, the line segment joining these two must lie entirely in G. So what is the relation between convex set and the star shape? Every convex set is star, but you can check the example that converse need not be true. So if that G is an open set, which is also a star shape, and if gamma is the curve which is constantly equal to A, then every closed rectifiable curve in G is homotopic to gamma. So these are the some requisites for the Cauchy theorem. So what is the first Cauchy theorem? If you have two closed rectifiable curves in G which are homotopic, then the integral of f over the same over both the closed rectifiable curve is same for every analytic function f. So for example, so if we take G equal to C minus 0 and gamma naught is e to the power 2 pi s and gamma 1s is e to the power minus 2 pi s for 0 less equal s less equal 1, then these two are not homotopic. Because if G are in given the theorem, the integral of this 1 by z dz is 2 pi I and integral over gamma 1 of 1 by z dz is minus 2 pi I. Since this 1 by z dz is analytic in this C minus 0, because the problematic point is the 0, z equal to 0, which is not in G. So theorem says that gamma naught and gamma 1 are not homotopic. So what is homotopic to zero? A closed rectifiable curve in G is said to be homotopic to zero if that gamma is homotopic to a constant curve. So this is the second version of the Cauchy theorem, which is very important. If you take a region and gamma is a closed rectifiable curve in G which is homotopic to zero, then the integral over f, integral of f over gamma is equal to 0 for every analytic function on G. So this is very important theorem for which has a very good applications. So another definition which is required is the fixed endpoint homotopy. So two rectifiable curves in G are said to be fixed endpoint homotopic if they having the same initial point and same endpoint, if there is a continuous map from I cross to G such that satisfying this condition. So here we can talk about the independence path theorem. It states that given two rectifiable curves in G from point A to B and gamma naught and gamma 1 are fixed endpoint homotopic, then the integral of f over gamma naught and gamma 1 is same for any analytic function G. The Cauchy third version, here we replace the G by simply connected set. Simply connected means G is connected as discussed by Dr. Puche, and every closed curve in G is homotopic to 0. That if you take any curve, simply connected means if the curve, inside the curve there is no 0, there is no hole. So on that simply connected set, integral of f over gamma, which is a closed rectifiable curve, is 0 for every analytic function. As a consequence, so like the fundamental theorem of calculus says that it has a continuous function, every continuous function has a primitive. So this, as like fundamental theorem of calculus, here we have a result in complex analysis which says that if G is simply connected and f is analytic function from G to C, then f has a primitive. This is the application of this Cauchy's theorem. So converse of Cauchy's theorem is called as a Morera's theorem. It states that if given G is a region and f is a function from G to C, which is a continuous function such that integral of f is 0 for every triangular path in G, then f is analytic. So Cauchy's theorem states that if f is analytic, then the integral of f is equal to 0. So Morera's theorem is the converse of Cauchy's theorem, and this is true for not every rectifiable, closed rectifiable path, but it is true for every closed triangular path. Triangular path means it's a polygonal and has three sides that you can imagine. So here the index, why two winding numbers or index numbers are same? If you take two homotopic closed rectifiable curves in C minus A, and if A is not in gamma naught and gamma 1, they are the closed rectifiable curves, then their index of A over gamma naught and gamma 1 is same. And by using this, we can conclude that if gamma is a closed rectifiable curve in C, then index number is constant for every point in the component C minus gamma, and index number is 0 for all the points in the unbounded component outside that component. So a very important result as far as the applications are concerned is the next Cauchy integral formula. So it states that the index number into f at A equal to 1 upon 2 pi I integral over gamma f of z upon z minus a dz. And for the point which is in G, which is outside the closed rectifiable curve. Similarly, the formula for the derivatives is like this. So these are very useful for the further discussions. So very applications, immediate applications of this Cauchy integral formula are the countings. We can count the number of zero inside the curve. Also we can get the open mapping theorem as a consequence of the Cauchy integral formula, as well as we can get the Cauchy Goursat theorem. So this is one of the theorem which is very useful for the application purpose. So these are the statements of open mapping theorem and Goursat theorem. So let me directly go to the application part. In applications, I have tried some examples based on with the help of Cauchy integral formula and Cauchy theorem. So here, given C with the boundary of the triangle with vertices are 0, 3i and -4 oriented counterclockwise, means anti-clockwise. So how we can compute the integral over c to the power z minus z bar dz. So because e to the power z is entire, is analytic everywhere, and c is a boundary of a triangle, so this is closed. Therefore, integral of e to the power z dz equal to 0. This is by Cauchy's theorem. So therefore, this integral reduces to minus z bar dz over c. C has 3 points, 0, 3i minus 4. Say P1 0, P2 is 3 and P3 is minus 4. So if you integrate it, what we'll get is the calculation, use the parametric equations over the lines. So you will get this. So another application of this Cauchy integral theorem show that this integral over z is 0, where c is the unit circle mod z equal to 1 in either direction, means positive direction or the negative direction, means clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction. So you can apply this Cauchy integral theorem because f of z is analytic on an inside mod z equal to 1, that is f of z is analytic in this set z in C such that mod z less equal 1. If you show that f of z is analytic in this set, then we can conclude that integral over f of z dz is 0. This is by Cauchy integral theorem, Cauchy's theorem. So because this f of z is z cube upon z square plus 5z plus 6 is analytic everywhere except at the point z equal to -2 and z equal to -3. If you take this to be equal to 0, what are the values of z are -2 and -3. These are the problematic points. I'm not using the word singularities. So these are the problematic points because this is not defined so far. So we have to avoid whether this point lies in this set. So you can check that modulus of these points are, first point is 2 and modulus of second point is 3. So they doesn't lies in this set. Therefore, no problematic point of this function lies in this set. Therefore, this function is a nice function. So that means it is an analytic everywhere on this set. So therefore, by Cauchy's integral theorem or Cauchy's theorem, this integral is 0. So another, we can take a nice example of say f of z equal to the power tan z. If we express e to the power tan z as a power series in terms of e to the power like e to the power x, then we can check that this f of z is not analytic in the set where the cos z is 0. And when cos z is 0, if z equal to n pi plus pi by 2, where is n is an integer. And the modulus, you can check, the modulus of n pi plus pi by 2 is greater than 1 for all integers. Therefore, all the problematic points doesn't lies in this set. Therefore, f of z is analytic here. And therefore, by Cauchy's theorem or Cauchy integral theorem, this integral is 0. Similarly, think about f of z equal to log of z plus 3i. And note that this log z is analytic in C minus, remove the negative real line. So this log of z plus 3i is analytic in C minus z in C such that z equal to x minus 3i. So here you need a little bit of calculations. So therefore this log of z plus 3i is analytic on this set. And if you look at the modulus of this z x minus 3i, which is greater than 1 for all x, real x, then this f of z is analytic in this set. Therefore, the integral of f of z equal to 0. So let us think about some more applications. So given C1 is the positively oriented boundary of the curve given by mod x plus mod y equal to 2. This is the inside part. And C2 denote the positively oriented circle with center origin and radius is 4, outside part, and they are positively oriented, means anti-clockwise. Apply Cauchy integral formula and check that the integral of fz over C1 and C2 are same for these functions. That we can immediately observe if you show that this f of z is analytic on and between the C1 and C2 on the contour. So inside part is called as a contour. That is, f of z is analytic in between these two curves. For the first part, f of z equal to z plus 1 upon z square plus 1, what is required is, since what are the problematic points are plus minus I, because if you take z square plus 1 equal to 0, then z equal to plus and minus I are the problematic points. So in that case, both belongs to the mod x plus mod y less than 2. Therefore, this f of z is analytic inside this contour. Therefore, by the Cauchy's integral theorem, these two integrals are same. Another application, f of z equal to z plus 2 upon sine of z by 2. This is analytic in the set z in C such that sine of z by 2 which is non-zero. Because if this part is non-zero, then this is analytic. Only problematic points are where sine of z by 2 is 0. So when this is 0, so sine of z by 2 is non-zero, means z is not equal to 2n pi, where n is an integer. So since 2n pi is a member of this set, mod x plus mod y less than 2, because if we take, these are real numbers, if we take its mod, it becomes 2n pi again. And this modulus value, if we take n equal to 0, this value is 0, so it lies in this set. And if it is non-zero, then this modulus of 2n pi is greater than 4. Therefore, f of z is analytic in the annulus, in between the two curves. Therefore, they having the same integral over C1 and C2. Similarly, for sin z upon z square plus 6z plus 5, the problematic points are the zeros, z square plus 6z plus 5, zeros of z square plus 6z plus 5, and they are minus 1 and minus 5. Minus 1 lies inside this mod x plus mod y less than 2, and mod minus 4 is greater than 4. So both the points lies outside the annulus, outside this annulus. Therefore, they having the same integral over C1 and C2. So as like this, we can think about the more applications of this Cauchy integral theorem. So these are given with this document. Here are some more examples. Now let us see some applications of Cauchy integral formula. So let us evaluate this integral of 1 upon z into z minus 1 dz for the circle mod z equal to 3. Because mod z equal to 3 is a circle with center at origin and radius is 3. So look at the problematic points are 0 and 1. So both the points are lies in a circle of radius 3. So express this 1 upon z into z minus 1 as use a partial fraction and find out the values of a and b and take the separate integration. After integration, and by using the Cauchy integral formula, which says that 1 upon 2 pi I integral over c f of z upon z minus a equal to f at a. So by using this formula, you can check that this integral value is nothing but 2 pi I, because the f at z is 1 in the first case. This is 1. So this f at a is 1. So this value is 2 pi I. Similarly, what about the integral over c 1 upon z minus 2? This value is again 2 pi I. So therefore, what is the, so this first value minus second value, so 2 pi I minus 2 pi I, this integral is 0. Also, we can verify this by using the Cauchy theorem. Similarly, so let us have some applications, more applications. So if you replace this f of z is z minus 1 upon z plus 1 square and z minus 2 over a circle with center at minus 1, 0 and radius is 2. In that case, so take the denominator equal to 0, find out the zeros. So our minus 1, 2, minus 1 is repeated twice. So this is a double pole at z equal to minus 1 and a simple pole of at 2. So apply this Cauchy integral formula for a derivative. So this becomes, this value is equal to 2 pi times the derivative at minus 1. And so what is derivative at minus 1 is 1 upon 9. So therefore this is by Cauchy integral formula. So therefore this value is f dash z is minus 1 upon z minus 2 square. So f dash of minus 1 upon 9. So this is the solution of this integral by using the integral formula. So some more applications that we can look at. So here are the some applications that are here. If you wish, I can share this document to you so you can have more glimpses of examples and applications of Cauchy integral formula and Cauchy's integral formula, Cauchy's theorem. So let me first talk about the applications to the other branches of the science and engineering, and then I will go to the recent open problems and some conjectures with respect to the complex analysis is concerned. So here, what are the applications in the engineering and other sciences? So in signal analysis, complex numbers are used and other fields, and also other fields for convenient description for periodically varying signals. For given real functions, actual physical quantities are represented in terms of sines and cosines. In Fourier analysis is employed to write a given real valued signal as a sum of periodic functions. So also we can employ this Cauchy integral formula and Cauchy theorem to find out solutions of some improper integrals which are real. In applied fields, complex numbers are often used to compute certain real valued improper integrals by means of complex valued functions. Several methods exist to do this. So for example, that we did here is the method of contour integration. The residue theorem is a powerful tool to evaluate path integrals of meromorphic functions over closed curves and can be used to compute real integrals as well. It generalizes the Cauchy theorem and Cauchy integral formula. In quantum mechanics, the foundation formulas of quantum mechanics, the Schrodinger equation and Heisenberg's matrix mechanics make use of these complex numbers. In case of electrical engineering, the AC voltage in a home requires two parameters. One is a potential such as 20 volts and the other is an angle which is called as a phase. The voltage is said to have two dimensions. It can be represented mathematically as a vector or a complex number. In case of Fourier transforms, is used to analyze varying voltage and currents. This use is also extended into digital signal processing and digital image processing. As far as next applications are concerned, applications to fluid dynamics. In fluid dynamics, complex functions are used to describe potential flow in 2 dimensions. Certain fractals are plotted in the complex plane, that is the Mandelbrot set. Fluid dynamics and its subdisciplines, aerodynamics, hydrodynamics, and hydraulics, have a range of applications. For example, they are used in calculating forces and moments on aircraft, the mass flow of petroleum through pipelines, and prediction of weather patterns. In case of relativity, in a special and general relativity, some formulas for the metric on time became simpler if one takes the time variable to be imaginary. Complex numbers are essential to spinors, which are a generalization of the tensor used in relativity. In applied mathematics, differential equations, it is a common to first find all complex roots of the characteristic equations in case of linear differential equations, and everybody has studied this, how to find out the roots of these differential equations, and then attempt to solve the system in terms of base functions. In electromagnetism, instead of taking electrical and magnetism as a part of different real numbers, one can represent as a complex number and they can study. In civil and mechanical engineering, the concept of complex geometry and Argand plane is very much useful in constructing buildings and cars. This concept is used in 2D designing of building and cars. It is also very helpful in cuttings of tools. So here, these are some references that I have used for this lecture, and at the end, what I'll share this document with all the participants, which are budding researchers, maybe researchers in future. For them, so there are some documents, some open problems in case of complex analysis and related areas, and some conjectures, but they are in technical terms, so they can go through this document and they can prepare their journey for the future, how to go further in the research in case of complex analysis and allied areas. So there are plenty of open problems and conjectures which are given. So I'll share this document with the organizers, and they can share with all the participants. So these are some open problems and conjectures in complex analysis, and this is the recent document in 1990. So some problems might get solved, some partial answers are given, but there are as many problems that one can start immediately. So these are some documents that I have to share with you all. I think I have done with this my document. So if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Are there any questions?
Yes, sir. One question from Vidya Jaipur. Question is application of complex analysis in real life.
Hello, sir.
So
Hello.
all the applications that I discussed, all these are real life applications. I have given these applications what I have given in case of fluid dynamics, relativity, applied mathematics, electromagnetism, civil and mechanical engineering. All these are real life applications.
Okay.
Engineering means all these are real life that we are using. Hello.
Okay. Second question is Palani Sami. Application of complex analysis in physics.
So relativity, fluid dynamics, all these are areas related to physics. Even quantum mechanics. These are areas which are related to physics. And I have talked about the applications of
उद्या पाच 10 मिनिट आता काय वेळ आहे?
Next, if anybody has question, then ask your question.
Raise your hand. जयंत बघते का?
If anybody has question, then ask your questions.
If anybody wants to ask any question, he can raise his hand.
तू म्हटलं आपलं म्यूट करायला पाहिजे का?
Hand raise केला की कळतं.
हे नाही विचारू का? तू म्हणत होते डीबी पाटलांना काय विचारू का? डीबी पाटलांना विचारू का?
नाही असं नको असं.
I think there is no question.
डीबी पाटला काय म्हणते? हॅलो, हा प्रश्न काय विचारणार आहे का?
Just a minute, sir.
अनम्यूट करणार का तुम्ही? कसं करणार?
नाही मोबाईलवरून विचारू दे. मोबाईल
हॅलो, विचारा तुम्ही, मी इथे दाखवतो त्यांना. विचारा ह्या
Just 2 minutes. बघा सर, just 2 minutes.
आणखी कोणा?
हॅलो.
मोबाईलवरूनच त्याला
just 2 minutes बोला सर.
तसा.
कसं आता मी ते म्हणतो ते
मोबाईल.
सर आवाज येत नाही मला. हॅलो.
हॅलो. हॅलो.
आणखी कोणाचा प्रश्न आहे का विचारायचा? नाही.
नॉट ऑडिबल.
Yes, sir, you are audible to us.
हॅलो.
If anybody has question, then ask your question, please. Okay, sir. नाही सर असं नको ते असं होणारच नाही असं ठीक.
I think, sir, there is no any question. Thank you very much for your meaningful deliberations on the topic. Balla, sir. Thank you once again. Now, finally, I would like to invite Mr. S.D. Agarwal, sir, Assistant Professor in Mathematics, SGM College, Karad, to propose vote of thanks. S.D. Agarwal, sir.
It gives me an immense pleasure to propose a vote of thanks. First of all, I thank resource persons of today's webinar, Honorable Dr. K.D. Kuche sir, for his resourceful and informative talk. My thanks to Dr. S.B. Balla sir for his encouraging talk on the topic of webinar. My sincere thanks to our respected principal Dr. Rajmane sir for his kind support for organizing this webinar. I also thank Vice Principal and Head of our department, Professor S.A. Patil sir, and IQC Coordinator, Dr. J.B. Kalyan Shetty sir, for organizing this useful webinar. A big thank to Dr. S.C. Jadhav sir for anchoring this event. Also, I acknowledge the technical support of Jayesh Kadam sir and Mahesh Gaikwad sir. Lastly, I thank all the participants from all over the India. Thank you one and all. Have a great day. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you. Now I send feedback link on Telegram and WhatsApp group. Fill the feedback form and get your certificate. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your meaningful participation, and thank you very much resource persons for your valuable deliberations.
Chat box में दे लीजिए.
Thank you.